Welcome back to Cyber Intel Digest, your gateway into the chilling world of cybersecurity. Here, we uncover real-life cyber horror stories, expose the hidden digital battles that shape our world, and reveal the dangers lurking behind the screen you're watching right now. If you've ever wondered just how fragile our modern world really is, how a single line of malicious code could plunge millions into darkness, then you're in the right place. But before we begin, I have a request. Subscribe to Cyber Intel Digest right now and hit that notification bell. That way, you'll never miss the stories that governments, corporations, and hackers don't want you to hear. Tonight's story is one of the most terrifying case studies in cyber history. It's about a winter night in Ukraine when an invisible enemy reached through the internet and switched off the lights of an entire nation. This wasn't just another cyber attack. It was a warning shot to the entire world. So sit back, because what you're about to hear may change the way you think about electricity, safety, and war itself. The fragile lifeline of electricity. Before we get into the attack, let's pause for a moment. Think about your own life. Right now, electricity powers everything: your lights, your phone, your fridge, the device you're using to watch this video. Hospitals, trains, planes, banks, military bases, government offices, everything relies on power. Now imagine, just for a second, what would happen if all of it went dark. No warning. No storm. Just darkness. That is what happened in Ukraine in December 2015. And it wasn't Mother Nature that caused it. It was humans, with keyboards, thousands of miles away. The calm before the storm. It was December 23, 2015. Across Ukraine, families were preparing for Christmas. Snow covered the countryside, and the glow of lights filled the towns. But in the offices of three electricity distribution companies, something sinister was lurking. Unknown to the engineers, their control systems had been quietly hijacked for months. Hackers had gained a foothold using the most common cyber trick in the book, a phishing email. Employees had received documents that looked harmless. But once opened, they infected the system with BlackEnergy 3 malware. The malware sat silently, watching, learning, taking notes. Like a burglar hiding in your attic, waiting for the right moment to strike. And that moment came on a cold winter afternoon. At 3:30 p.m., engineers at BlackEnergy noticed something strange. The mouse cursor on their computer screens began moving, on its own. Click. 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 Circuit breakers began shutting down, one after another. Substations went offline. Entire neighborhoods fell into darkness. At first, the engineers thought it was a glitch. They tried to take back control, but the systems were locked. They were no longer the operators of Ukraine's grid. They were spectators. Within minutes, 30 substations were remotely shut down. Lights out. The result was catastrophic. Over 230,000 people lost power. Towns and villages were plunged into freezing darkness. Trains stopped. Businesses shut down. Families scrambled for candles and generators. And the attackers weren't done. They disabled backup power supplies, meaning substations couldn't be restarted remotely. They jammed telephone call centers, preventing customers from reporting outages. And they deployed kill disk malware to wipe the operators' computers, leaving them crippled even after the lights went out. It was a triple-layered attack: destruction, disruption, and disinformation. Who was behind it? Investigators quickly discovered this wasn't the work of amateurs. The attack was linked to Sandworm, a hacker group believed to be tied to Russian military intelligence, the GRU. Why Russia? At the time, Ukraine was already at war with Russian-backed separatists in the east. This wasn't about money or bragging rights. It was about power, both literal and political. By turning out the lights, the attackers were sending a message: we can reach into your homes. We can control your comfort. We can plunge you into fear. It was cyber terrorism, plain and simple. The aftermath: for 6 hours, chaos reigned. Engineers were forced to travel to substations and manually flip switches to restore power. By the next morning, the lights were back on. But the psychological damage was far greater. Ukraine had just become the victim of the world's first successful cyber attack on a power grid. And the entire world was watching. Governments and corporations realized that if Ukraine could be hit, so could they. The second strike, 2016. A year later, in December 2016, the attackers returned. This time, they targeted Kyiv, the capital. And they had a new weapon: Industroyer, also known as CrashOverride. Unlike the 2015 attack, which required hackers to manually click through control systems, Industroyer was designed to speak the language of the grid itself. It could directly issue commands to industrial equipment, automatically. For 75 minutes, parts of Kyiv went dark. This attack wasn't about scale. It was about sophistication. Industroyer was a blueprint for future cyber weapons, capable of being adapted to grids around the world. So, how do these cyber weapons actually work? Industrial systems, called SCADA systems, control everything from electricity grids to water treatment plants. They run on specialized protocols, languages like IEC 60870, DNP3, and OPC. Industroyer was designed to speak those languages. It could send commands to circuit breakers as if it were a legitimate operator. Think of it like a hacker breaking into your smart home and telling your thermostat, lights, and locks what to do, except to the scale of a nation's power grid. That's why experts called Industroyer one of the most dangerous pieces of malware ever discovered. 2022 cyber war meets real war. Fast forward to February 2022. As Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, cybersecurity experts feared the grid would be one of the first targets. And they were right. In April 2022, Ukraine's defenses detected Industroyer 2, an upgraded version of the 2016 malware. This time, thanks to rapid collaboration between Ukrainian defenders, Microsoft, and global cyber agencies, the attack was stopped before it could cause a nationwide blackout. But the message was clear: cyber attacks and physical warfare now go hand in hand. The battlefield isn't just land, sea, and air anymore. It's also cyberspace. Why this matters to the world: the Ukraine power grid attacks weren't just Ukraine's problem. They were a wake-up call to the entire world. Because the truth is, every country's grid is vulnerable. In 2021, the US Colonial Pipeline was hacked, causing fuel shortages across the East Coast. That wasn't even a state-sponsored attack, just criminals. Imagine what a full-scale cyber weapon could do to New York, London, or Tokyo. Hospitals in darkness. Airports grounded. Banks offline. Food supplies cut off. Society as we know it could collapse in days. The global cyber arms race. The Ukraine attacks triggered a global cyber arms race. Nations began investing heavily in both cyber defense and cyber offense. The US created Cyber Command to fight digital wars. NATO declared that a cyber attack could trigger Article 5, treating it like a military assault. Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea ramped up their own cyber armies. The world had entered a new kind of Cold War, one fought not with nukes, but with malware. Lessons from Ukraine. What did Ukraine teach us? Never underestimate simple attacks. The 2015 blackout started with a single phishing email. Resilience is key. Ukraine's engineers restored power by going manual, something many modern countries can't do. Collaboration saves lives. In 2022, Ukraine survived because of partnerships with global tech companies. Cyber and physical war are now inseparable. Tanks and hackers work side by side. Could it happen to you? Here's the terrifying truth: yes. Power grids worldwide rely on outdated technology, often decades old. Many were never designed with cybersecurity in mind. In fact, researchers regularly find vulnerabilities that could allow hackers to cause blackouts. It's not a question of if another Ukraine-style attack happens. It's a question of when, and where. The human cost: we often talk about cyber attacks in technical terms: malware, exploits, vulnerabilities. But let's not forget the human cost. In Ukraine, families spent freezing nights without heat. Patients in hospitals feared losing life support machines. Businesses lost money. People lived in fear. Cyber attacks don't just target computers. They target people. They target trust. And once that trust is broken, once a nation realizes that even its most basic lifeline can be taken away, the psychological scars run deep. The future of cyberwarfare: as technology advances, so does the battlefield. The rise of AI means future cyber attacks could be automated, adapting in real time to defenses. Quantum computing could break today's encryption, opening the door to unimaginable breaches. The Ukraine power grid attacks were just the beginning. The first shots in a war without borders. The night Ukraine's lights went out wasn't just a regional crisis. It was a turning point in history. It showed us that cyber attacks can rival bombs in their power to disrupt societies. And it left us with a chilling question: when the next big cyber attack comes, will we be ready? Or will we all be sitting in the dark, wondering how the world we built on technology became the weapon used against us? If this story shook you as much as it shook me, then hit subscribe to Cyber Intel Digest right now. This channel dives deep into the creepiest, most shocking stories of the digital age. Give this video a thumbs up so more people can understand just how real and dangerous these threats are. And share it, because awareness is the first step toward defense.